And that's what happened in this period. The problem was that we're dealing with terribly horrific people in Rome that we've glorified in Western history, but are in this period really, you know, totally depraved. Hey, you want to maybe take it? Totally depraved people. Sexual mores completely depraved as far as Palestine would be concerned. So totally polluted people. The governors that they sent out would be totally polluted persons as far as the people here were concerned. So you have a situation where you couldn't accept officials or high priests appointed by such persons. I think that's the ethos you'll find in the Dead Sea Scrolls when we come up on it. You read those; they're very sincere documents. They're very consistent. They're very harmonious. One document agrees with the next, absolutely. It's not just some collection of crazy writings that don't agree with one another. It's not the literature of the period. It's the literature of a movement. So let's go back here to this situation here where we have the crucial moment. So Simon succeeds Jonathan, then all the descendants of the Maccabean family for the next 100 years. So Simon would die about 130 something. So from 160 to 130, 30 years have gone by in the first generation of Maccabees. Then Simon's son John Hyrcanus would take us down to about 100. Then John Hyrcanus' surviving son, who didn't, Alexander Onias, as we did last time, he takes us down to around the 70s. That's how we're in the 70s here when this happened. Then his two sons, Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II, they're in the 60s. And in the 60s in Rome, we're getting the rise of Julius Caesar and Pompey. Julius Caesar is in Gaul, subduing the Gauls, and he's a fairly decent person, Julius Caesar, but he's ruthless. And he doesn't brook any opposition. If you oppose him, he's going to kill you. And he's going to make sure that none of you escape. And he did that to the famous Gaul leader. How many are familiar with the Roman history? What's his name? Vercingetorix, is that his name? Yeah, it's supposed to be some red-haired chieftain, and the town that he was in that they hold up there, and it's been on television a lot on the History Channel. If you watch it, I think it was called Elysium or something like that. It was a big, huge hill fortress. They outnumbered the Romans like, 10 to 1. But Caesar built a huge 25-mile wall around this mountain and somehow managed to wall them in. And finally, I don't know how he did it, through very clever stratagems. In any case, he either killed or captured them all and captured their chieftain. He took this chieftain to Rome, and he respected him. But when the victory parade came, he had him beheaded or killed with an axe in the victory parade. You didn't surrender to Rome lightly. You didn't surrender to Rome lightly. So this is a great pity here. What happens is that the Romans are coming in the eastern part. Caesar's in the west, Pompey's in the east. And he's coming down fighting the Persians, who are at this time called the Parthians. And he comes in from the north. He's in Asia Minor, subduing, the Armenians have had a tough time from then until now, subduing the Armenians, and they made, colonies out of the Armenians and other countries in Asia Minor. These were still Greek-speaking places. The Kurds have got the short end of the stick from the beginning of time to the end of time. The Kurds were in the mountains there, The name of the place that the Kurds inhabited at that time was called Adiabini. We're going to end up in this class, in my books, with the person who was the queen of Adiabini, and her name is Helen. And I think her sons or grandsons or family, if I make that point in my New Testament code, they're going to be involved in the final war against Rome from 66 to 70, and I think she helped finance it. I think she's the person who Acts calls the Ethiopian queen. There was no Ethiopian queen at this time. Acts is playing games with us there. She did send her treasury agents to Jerusalem to relieve the famine. We know that. And we know that they went down to Egypt and they went out to Cyprus and bought grain in the 40s and 50s. So Queen Helen and northern Iraq and southern Asia Minor, northern Syria and so on, those were the Kurds. They weren't called Kurds then, but they've always got the short end of the stick from the whole of time. And they're still getting it. The Turks now are going to come in and crush them if they can and so on, because we're so distracted. We have no power anymore to prevent any of these things. In any event, all those areas Pompey is subduing at this moment. And he comes down through Syria. And you think he's going to stop at Palestine? Of course not, he's not going to stop at Palestine. He's on his way to Egypt. And so the intermediary here is Antipater. And who's Antipater? The father of Herod to be. His name is Antipater. And he arranges for Hyrcanus, as we did last time, to get Roman help. Hyrcanus I would be John Hyrcanus. Hyrcanus II is the son of Alexander. You know, so we said two names by this time, Hebrew and Greek. John is a Hebrew name, Hyrcanus is a Greek name. Alexander is a Greek name, Yanaz is actually Jonathan. It's actually a Hebrew name. They took Greek and Hebrew names by this time. Aristobulus II. Aristobulus I was a son of John Hyrcanus. Aristobulus II is the brother of Hyrcanus II, and his name would have been Judas Aristobulus. So they took a Greek and also Hebrew names. In any case, Pompey is coming down into the country here, and as we said, Hyrcanus makes a deal with him through help from Petra. Where's Petra? If you remember, I drew you a map, but I'll do it again. This is Palestine, this is the Dead Sea, what we call Transjordan. It wasn't as clearly demarcated as that in those days. Syria, Jordan, although it wasn't Jordan then, it was Idumea. And so on and so forth. So Petra is over here. And the Arabs were just coming into prominence here. So this is an Arab king here, Arab